Sorry about that. I forgot to press record.
It's okay.
For today's prepared speech, the speakers have 5 to 7 minutes to give their speech. At 5 minutes, I'll be showing this green Uno card. Maybe I'll change my background because this is messing up with my screen. So at 5 minutes, I'll show you my background will be green. At 6 minutes, it will be yellow. And at 7 minutes, it will be red. After that, you have 30 seconds to wrap up. Over to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Bhakti. Our second functionary for tonight is the accounter, Ruchi. Ruchi, can you please unmute yourself and tell us about your role tonight?
Hi, everyone. I'll be counting all the repetitive words, all the ahs and ums, and you're recommended to take a short pause in between your sentences if you're confused or you are still thinking, instead of making those sounds, because I'll be counting them. Over to you, Justin.
Thank you very much. Our third functionary of tonight is the grammarian. I see Ajija in the program, but I don't see her here. Okay, Sarah, can you unmute yourself, please, and tell us about your role?
Hello, everyone. I will be serving as your grammarian this evening. I will be looking for excellent uses of rhetoric and grammatical devices, as well as keeping track of the use of the word of the day, which is one that I have not heard before. So it will be a challenge for all of us to use it, unless I'm the only one who doesn't know this word. The word of the day is polymath, which is a person of wide-ranging knowledge or learning. Slightly ironic that I don't know that word, because my example sentence would be, now that I know the definition, I would consider myself to be a polymath, which I looked up is pretentious to call yourself. So I guess you shouldn't refer to it when you shouldn't refer to yourself as a polymath, but I just did because I can. My other example would be Alex, who studied engineering and is now working in human services. So anyone who has a wide-ranging knowledge or learning and gets to apply those would be a polymath. It does not have to do necessarily with numbers, unless that's one of your areas of expertise. It is a noun, and you can use it in your speeches. We'll talk more about it at Table Topics time. Till then, I will be keeping track of excellent and poor uses of grammar and rhetoric.
Thank you, Sarah. And I don't want to forget our additional functionary that we have, since we are holding this meeting on Zoom. We have our clap master and our Zoom master. Those are Christine and Alex. Thank you for being, thank you for holding those roles for us. So let's jump to our first section of the meeting. The prepared speeches. Our first speaker for tonight is Ajita. Evaluating Ajita is Brandon. Brandon, can you unmute yourself, please, and tell us about what you are expecting from Ajita's speech?
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. I am evaluating Ajita's speech tonight. Technically, she is on her innovative planning pathway, level 3, and that is deliver social speeches. It's an elective project. As far as what I'm expecting amazing things from yet another speech from Ajita. I look forward to it. Have fun.
Before the meeting, I asked the speakers to answer one of two questions. The first question was to tell me about a time or situation where they were forced to be creative. And the second one was to tell me about a time where they contributed to an innovation. So Ajita's answer was that she was forced to be creative when she was repairing a cycle puncture on the mountain. When they didn't have the water tube to detect the hole in the tube, she used the sand which was spread at small spots and the tube in order to find out the exact space where the air was leaking. I thought that was pretty dope. So Ajita's speech tonight is a eulogy to her grandmother, celebrating life of my grandmother. That's the title of her speech. Celebrating life of my grandmother, Ajita.
Today, I would like to pay a tribute to my maternal grandmother who left us last week on her journey to the heavenly abode. Married, married at the age of 13, mother to 9, grandmother to 20, and great grandmother to 14, my grandmother lived a happy life of 88 years. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and guests, thank you for joining me today to celebrate the life of my Nani, which is a Hindi word often used for maternal grandmother. My oldest memory of my Nani dates back to the summer vacations when we were kids. Every summer, we were so excited to spend 2 long months with our Nani at our Nani Ghar, which is grandmother's house. We were always pampered during our stay, and Nani would start preparing weeks before our arrival, where she would make all sorts of sweets and savories to feed us to our heart's content. There was some magic in her cooking, where even the simplest of lentil soup would taste heavenly. And I would always trouble her to share that magic with me and what she adds to the food. But as most of us know, that magic ingredient is that extra pinch of love, which is irreplaceable. I inherited quite a lot of qualities from my Nani through my mother. But the most important one was respecting time. Her entire day was planned and executed in a timely manner, right till the end. She would wake up in the morning, visit the temple, come back and prepare breakfast for everyone in the house before even we were up, and then get to the lunch preparation. It was only after lunch that she would sit back and relax and pursue her favorite hobby, which was embroidery. She would love doing embroidery on bed sheets and pillow covers, and I would sit next to her and listen to her life stories. One of her favorite stories was always reminiscing her journey from Pakistan to India during partition in 1947. She would fondly talk about the sea voyage, which they took for weeks to reach India to avoid the harm of traveling through the riots on the train route. How they gave away all the jewels she had inherited from her late mother to secure the safe passage. My mom would always tease her for not saving some of those for us. But in the end, she would happily say, Jaan hai to jahan hai, which translates to, while there is life, there is hope, and taught us not to get attached to material possessions. Even though my Nani never had a formal school education, she was not a polymath. All she had was that life's wisdom, which she shared with us. She taught us to be kind and forgiving. Her entire life was spent in taking care of others and spreading love and joy in her family. My last memory, which I cherish of my Nani, was when all three of us, all three generations, my Nani, my mother, and I, were sitting together and chatting. And all I could do was admire her brightest white hair, which shone like silken threads, aged through years and years of experience, complimenting the sweetest smile she had while looking at us. Today, I realize why it's rightly said that our parents give us life, but it's our grandparents who give us a sense of who we are and where we came from. May her soul rest in peace. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Wow, that was a speech. I wish you could hear that. So let's take 1 minute to send our feedbacks to Ajita. Madam Timer, can you give us that time? Thank you, Madam Timer. Our second speaker for tonight is Ming Shu. Evaluating Ming Shu is Matt. Matt, can you unmute yourself and tell us about Ming Shu's speech?
It's me, Hassan.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
that's okay.
Hassan.
Thank you, Dustin. Ming Shu is working today on his innovative pathway speech, innovative pathway, and the speech is a level 2 speech. And the project is Introduction to Toastmasters Mentoring. The purpose is to define Toastmaster vision of a mentoring or share some aspect of a previous experience as a protege. I look forward to hearing to his speech.
Thank you, Hassan. Ming Shu decided to answer to the second question, the one that says, have you ever contributed to an innovation? If yes, what was it and what was your contribution? Ming Shu answered, this semester he was working on the team project and they decided to design a learning system including an app, a wearable product, and 2 standalone products. He took over the one of them and helped the system to work. The title of Ming Shu's speech is A Bond Across the Pacific. A Bond Across the Pacific, Ming Shu.
Hi, everyone. 3 years ago, I would never imagine I could have a strong connection with a person who lives on the other side of the earth. Yeah, destiny is always marvelous, right? Last fall, I was studying English remotely in RIT English Language Center. My spoken English teacher, Lisa, introduced me the Tigertales Toastmasters. Hey, Mingshuo, there's a club called Tigertales. I think you should try. When I heard that, I was questioning in my mind, what? Tales of Tigers? This club is about animal world? Crazy. Let me have a look. At that meeting, I was chosen to answer one table topic question. My answer was pretty bad, like a broken tape using uncountable filler words. But I won. It's crazy, which made me so happy. Then I knew I should join because everyone was encouraging me, a fish guy. Then at the end of the second meeting, all folks are chatting with each other. I was like a stranger. Okay, lonely and awkward. It was Xavier who spoke to me and reminded me that I need a mentor to guide me. In my mind, I was thinking, okay, I don't know anyone else anymore, so it gotta be you. Then Xavier became my mentor. Actually, I don't have many experiences communicating with a native English speaker. I was so nervous before contacting him. In Chinese culture, a mentor is like a teacher. We need to show supreme respect to him. Then I wrote a formal self-introduction. Dear Xavier, my name is Mingshuo Li. I like playing basketball and drawing. I wish I could have fun with you. Seeing this long and boring Word document. But it was surprising that he sent me a longer introduction with his lovely photo. Dear Mingshuo, blah, 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 blah. Wow. Then I knew this dude is friendly and kind. This is how our bond got built. I was curious about American culture and him, so I asked him questions thousands of times, and he never rejected. Through frequent communications, my former worries were gone. I was worried about Asian hate. I was worrying my Chinese accent would interrupt our conversations. Yeah, they were all problems. They are all real, and they were all gone because of Xavier. Then I feel eager to embrace American culture, and to be honest, I can't wait anymore. He helped me a lot with my speeches. He always gave me a lot of constructive suggestions, and we always have rehearsals before Tigertales meetings. When I was preparing the humorous speech, I was not good at that. And Xavier showed me lots of humorous forms and tricks, such as changing volume, using crazy faces, playing stupid. I was totally impressed that Xavier was just like Jim Carrey. He's so funny. Then I observed his suggestion and they worked pretty well. Remember the joke that when I was watching a book with a book upside down, it was Jim Xavier's advice. Genius. Yeah, as you can see, Xavier is such a great mentor. No matter how busy his work is, he always has free time helping me. Which let me think his time is like a sponge. Squeeze it and there's more time left. He's always energetic, willing to offer a hand, and he never ceases to encourage me and inspire me to build my confidence. This is not only about speech, but also about my personal life. I was stressed out this semester. Too much homework and too many deadlines killed my sleep, consuming my energy. And after knowing it, my mentor Xavier said lots of kind words to me and tried to cheer me up. Also, he emphasized that don't underestimate yourself. And he shared his experience of getting drawn in projects. These words mean a lot. I can't be grateful more. Besides, since I knew he wakes up at 6 o'clock every morning, has a clear plan of his business, never waste time, I've started changing my habits too. I did all my video games, Halo, Tomb Raider, Cyberpunk. I tried to make a detailed plan of everyday missions. I'm glad I was influenced by Xavier. These are all good changes. In this relationship, Xavier devotes a lot. He plays multiple roles: a listener, a leader, and a brother. He's like a candle, burning himself and illuminating me. Oh, it's such a great thing that Toastmaster mentorship inherits a further generation. I guess that's why the Toastmaster continue to be flourish. Yeah, I really appreciate this mentorship. I learned English language, confidence, and lots of life experiences. I'm a much better person since started to be a protege. And the most happy thing of mine is when I heard from Xavier, Mingshuo, your speech is much better than before. Congratulations. And I know it's not only about speech. Yeah. And I have a gift for my mentor, Xavier. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Go back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Mingshu. That was an amazing speech. Awesome. I like the painting at the end. Can we have 1 minute, please, Madam Timer, to send our feedbacks to Mingshu? Thank you, Madam Timer. Our last speaker of tonight is Gaurav, and evaluating Gaurav is Matt. Matt, can you unmute yourself, please, and tell us about Gaurav's speech?
Sure. Gaurav's speech is part of the, let's see, it's a level 3 elective project. Oh, and I don't know that I have the pathway. It's called using presentation software. So Gaurav is practicing using presentation software. And he really wants to look for, audience engagement. So how are we all responding to what he's saying and being inspired, humored, everything else that engages us in a speech.
Thank you, Matt. I asked Gaurav to tell me about the situation where he was forced to be creative. Gaurav said that is a Tuesday for him. He is forced to be creative every day. As a researcher, he's always forced to be creative on weekly meetings with his committee, and he had contributed to an innovation, and luckily he's talking about it today. That's Gaurav's answer. So the title of Gaurav's speech is "You Are Not Safe in Your Home." You are not safe in your home, Gaurav.
Hello everyone. Can everybody see my screen? Yeah. Okay. So I'll start with my presentation. So as everybody know my title, that you are not safe in your home. I know it's pretty scary, but let me tell you why. So most of us might know the traditional electric system, also known as the legacy systems. So usually the electrical company is the one who is providing you the electricity, and we as the consumer are consuming electricity. But at the end of every month, we are getting billed for a consumption. So there is a meter man, you can see over here, who comes at our doorstep, reads the meter reading, and then we get a bill for that required month. Now, this traditional legacy system is being transformed to smart grid. As you can see, there are various domains which are connected with each other. And now data and electricity is flowing between them. there is no need of the meter man to now come to your home. Now we can directly remotely take the meter reading at the electrical company's end as the customers. This reason for transformation was due to Northeast blackout. It was the world's second largest blackout. It affected states of US and Canada. The economic loss was estimated to be 7 billion. Later, they found out the reason that was due to a small bug in the alarm system. It originated in Ohio, which is Canada, and it was an avalanche effect. And then instead of you can say blackout, it turned out to collapse the entire grid. Now, we wanted a grid which was having a real-time monitoring, accurate billing, and increased resilience. Why with this integrated technologies in smart grid, there are threats. And we can attack, like as an attacker, I can attack on the frequency data which is being sent to the electrical company. So by that, what I can derive is that daily routine of the household, individual's presence or absence in the apartment or home, channels which are being watched on the television. So over here, if you can see in the diagram, I can identify this is an you can say a user profile for a 24 hours time period. I can see when the person was using his dishwasher, when the person was not at home because the lightning is not there. So in that way, by analyzing this, even criminals can arrange illegal activities. There are also power theft which are taking place, and also there are attacks on the devices, electrical devices deployed in the field. So I started researching, and there were 3 different categories of research. My research is focusing on the aggregation part. So directly focusing on aggregation, when I'm talking about aggregation, there are 2 types, spatial and temporal aggregation. If you see, if the aggregation is done across smart meters for a given instance of time, it is known as spatial aggregation. And temporal aggregation is basically required for billing. So if you see, I'm focusing on one smart meter and I'm traversing it across the days or the time period. Now the aggregation can be done either by smart meters, which are the devices installed outside customers' end, or they can be done by dedicated aggregators, which I'll be explaining in the later slides. And the main purpose of this is now to provide customers privacy. So to map the functionalities of the grid, that I need to provide grid functionalities, and also I have to provide customers an accurate billing. So the electrical company, which is known as the electrical utility, has to possess these features. This can be achieved by spatial and temporal aggregation, which I mentioned. But more important, I have to protect the privacy of the customers. As I have shown over here, that spatial aggregation is needed for getting grid functionalities. So just a rough example, that if a reading across 3 smart meter is 10, 20, and 30, at that given instance, the electrical company should be aware that the read is 60 across the smart meters. So it is used for supply and demand analysis. Why it is done so? Because if you see that if the supply is more and the demand is less, we have to store electricity at some point of time. And the storage cost is taken from the customers. But if you think on the other side, if the supply is less and demand is more, there is outage in your area. So therefore, to summarize in a basic mathematical equation, we need to match supply is equal to demand. So this was the framework which I came up with. In traditional legacy systems or electrical systems, you have a dedicated base station, or you can say an aggregator. But if that aggregator falls apart, the entire grid will fall apart because none of the customers will receive electricity. So this was the novel design which I came across, that introducing multiple dedicated aggregators. So even at a given instance of time, if this dedicated aggregator goes down, the other two dedicated aggregators would take the extra load on themselves. And then they would compute spatial and temporal aggregation for the same. So with respect to the smart meters, they are just small devices. They can perform heavy duties. So I'm shifting the entire readings, or you can say the computation, to the dedicated aggregators. And the electrical company is just responsible for mentioning or initializing the billing tariffs. So at the end, I achieved this framework where I'm reporting the spatial aggregation, reporting the billing, which is temporal aggregation, and also I'm providing customer the privacy. So now, even if attackers try to hack into the system, they cannot gain the necessary or critical information needed for the privacy attack. I would like to thank a group of polymaths. This is my committee who helped me achieve this publication. And thank you for attending my talk. I know it's a presentation, but if you have any questions, you can feel free to drop in the chat. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Gaurav, for this very informative speech. Let's take 1 minute to send our feedbacks to Gaurav. Madam Timer. Thank you, Madam Timer. So this ends our first section of the meeting. Let's now jump to the second section of the meeting, which is table topics. And the table topics master today is Xavier. I asked Xavier if he had ever contributed to an innovation. And Xavier sent me this picture. He said he had done almost the most part of the coding needed to manufacture the small device that you see on the screen. So the power wall is a battery for the houses, and the gateway is a switch to run your house off the battery if the grid power goes out. And Xavier said that it will switch so fast that your TV won't even turn off when the power goes out. Tonight's table topics master is Xavier. Back to the lectern is yours, Xavier.
Thank you, Destin. I am not Alex Turner like my name says. I am Xavier Tar, table topics master for tonight. It is actually my favorite role because I get to ask the questions and I love asking questions. But let's get some house rules down and we'll start with the timing. Can our timer tell us those rules? Bhakti.
Thank you, Xavier. For table topics, you have 1 to 2 minutes to speak. During 1 minute, I'll show a green background. When it's at 1 minute, 30 seconds, I'll show this yellow background. And when it's 2 minutes, I'll show this red background, after which you have 30 seconds to wrap up your speech. Over to you, Xavier.
Thank you, Bhakti. In addition to staying in the 1 minute to 2 minute, 30 second time, you have to also use the word of the day. And to say it again, Sarah.
Thank you, Xavier. Once again, the word of the day is polymath. which is a person of wide-ranging knowledge or learning. We have very many of them in here.
I will.
It is a noun. And, oh no, I'm huge. And you must use the word of the day in order to qualify for the virtual prize. I will keep my background up as this and type it in the chat in case you can't see me while you are speaking. Back to you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Sarah. For a high-level overview of table topics, anybody, guests, members, anybody can volunteer to get asked a question. And it's going to be a little different tonight because of our theme of polymaths. I decided to make a roulette wheel, which I'll be sharing with a whole bunch of different subjects on it. And the scenario will be, imagine that you're at you're having a conversation with somebody and they say, okay, person, what do you think about whatever the roulette wheel shows? You might recognize some of the topics because our speakers have spoken about them, so it might be something you're an expert in, but more likely than not, it will be something random. And you got 1 to 2 minutes, 30 seconds to talk on it. Who would like to go first? Preetam. Let me share my screen. Tell me about surrealism. Freedom.
Wow, that is a word that I have heard before, and I don't exactly know what it means. I know people say I feel surreal, which is exactly what I'm feeling now, looking at that word. I am thinking surreal means having an experience which is so joyous that you did not expect. Exactly my feeling now, being asked to talk on this word. I had those feelings sometimes during my student days. Some nights it happened that I got to know I had an exam the next day, for which I had to memorize a book, maybe 3 books, try to become a polymath on it. It was such a surreal experience to understand that I had 8 or 9 hours to study 3 books that would take about 3 months to study. I had to figure out very creative ways on how to pass those exams. Eventually I did. That is why I am here today. I was never really fond of that formal education system, even though I am doing a PhD today. I think their formal education system had 2 flaws. First one, it did not encourage cheating or copying from others. If you look at how children learn, a small child learns by copying other people, which universities don't allow. I was an expert in copying at exams from other people. Universities did not allow that. The other way small children learn is by failing. When they start working, they fall down and get up again, and that's how they learn. Universities and even my parents did not encourage failing. So that was a surreal experience all throughout my student life when I was not allowed to copy or fail. Back to you, Xavier.
Thank you, Preetam. That was a very surreal experience of surrealism. If you'd like to know surrealism, definitely talk to Ming Shuo. Who's up next? Tonight. my God. All right, tonight, talk to us about dogs.
Wow. So this wheel chose the best and my favorite topic in the world, which are dogs. If you don't know me, I'm not afraid of dogs. I love all sorts of dogs. And if there's a room full of dog, I'll go into that room. That's a lie. All of it. I am scared of if I'm scared of all the pets in the world. And I'm a poly scared pet. I don't know what that if you can make up a word, that's what I am. And yeah, just thinking of dogs are giving me a big my heart is racing because I just think of all the encounters about dogs. Did you know that dogs were once wolves? So they were trained to kill other animals and sometimes humans, but we just gave them food, and then they were like, "Oh, I'll not kill this guy because he gives me chicken." So, so that's why they became friendly with us over the period of so much so much years. But yeah, what's good about dogs is they are not polymath; they are just poly one subject, which is just being loyal. And that's a good argument if you want to convince me that, hey, if you want a loyal friend, then get a dog. But if I'm ever getting a dog, i might get it I might get one with braces or with teeth removed, or I don't know, or get an old dog with who doesn't have any teeth, because what the first that's what the o- so the reason why I'm so scared of dog is because a dog had bit me at my butt when I was a kid, which is why I don't like dogs. I don't know why I'm going on a rant with dogs. It's supposed to be a topic where I should have an expertise in dogs, right? But I don't, because I'm scared of dogs. Anyway, that's my story. It became a speech.
Well, if you're in a conversation or a party, that would definitely interest people.
It became a dog rant rather than.
Who is up next? Ming Shuo. Carpentry.
Carpentry. I I don't know these words actually. Carpentry. Okay, I know. So yeah, I like actually I really like carpentry. I saw a lot of videos of carpentry, and I find it's very interesting and funny. And when I was in college, there's one time I wanted to buy a piece of wood, buy some tools to make something that I like. Yeah, and I buy some pieces of I don't know what's the name of the wood, maybe a cherry or maybe not. And I buy some tools. I don't know what to name, but you can understand what I'm doing. Yeah, and I have some little knives to sharpen the tools, and I made a ring. It's very ugly, but it's the first thing I made. I put it onto my thumb. I don't know. It's ugly, but I just like it. Everyone, my classmates were laughing at me. Oh, you're crazy. But I think you don't understand. You don't know how much time I had put on it. And and I then after that I wanted to make a spoon, a wooden spoon, and I find a beautiful picture online, and I print it to stick it onto the piece of wood and carve it. And when I was doing to the middle parts, I found it so hard. I'm so tired. My arm is it's just like burning hard. Yeah, and I change the shape. It's need to be the picture is very the stick part is very thin. It's very thin, but I don't want to put a lot of time, so I make it like the spoon and a very fat, a very fat stick part, very fat handle part to save my energy. Yeah, I got to be honest. I'm not a polymath on this area, but I do enjoy this scene. Yeah, yeah. Go back to you.
That was a lot of fun. I didn't know that, Ming Shuo, that you've made projects. If you're very interested, though, Brendan's your man. Madam Timer, do we have time for one more? I got the thumbs up. Who would like to go next? Destin. Oh, we already did that one. Poetry.
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. Poetry. So I like poetry a lot because I studied poetry in high school in my French classes. And my most favorite poet is, oh, I'm forgetting his name. It's a Voltaire, right? Voltaire is a French poet. And I like his style of writing, how he makes rhymes. And he used a lot of old words that no longer exist in French. And it's very beautiful because poetry, the main thing about poetry is to convey a message, is to convey like a lesson, a life lessons throughout images by using words. And the beauty of poetry is making those words rhyming. And when you have those rhymes, it just sound beautiful to your hearers. You can't help yourself but wanting more of it. So what I learned about poetry is that there are a lot of kind of rhymes, a lot of kind of ways to mix sentences so that they can rhyme. So you have cross rhymes and you have rhymes that come one after another. And in French, we call the number of syllables, I don't know, in a poem like verses, and a verse is, for as much as I can remember, a verse is a sentence of 12 verses is named an Alexandrian, if I remember well. So yeah, that's all I can say about poetry. Thank you. Back to you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Destin. If you want to talk shop poetry, Alex is definitely your man. He gave a whole international speech talking about how he was a poet and not an engineer. But thank you to everyone who participated. If you don't feel like polymaths, that's okay, because you're definitely all polyglots, speaking multiple languages, which is double thumbs up for me. I don't know how the voting structure is going to work, if we have the poll or not. Do we have the poll, Bhakti?
I'll send the order in chat and you can vote according to the number next to the name.
Okay, let's do that. Go ahead and yeah, send that to Bhakti as well. And let's see who wins the virtual candy prize. Which number? As we are ending our voting, I'm going to pass it back to our awesome poet Toastmaster, and we'll see who wins that chocolate prize. Back to you, Destin.
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. That was an amazing table topics section. I really liked the whale. So let's move on to our last section of the meeting, the evaluation section. And our general evaluator tonight is Pritam. I asked Pritam to tell me about a time or a situation where you were forced to be creative. He said, when I realized the night before an exam that I haven't studied anything, I have to be creative on how I could pass the exam by any means, including cheating. That was really interesting. And a time Pritam was innovative. He said he started a business innovation based on 3D printing. And that's pretty neat. Our general evaluator for tonight, Pritam.
My role tonight is going to be helping all the speakers who did a wonderful job with their speeches get their evaluations, bring the functionaries up to evaluate the meeting, and give a general evaluation of the meeting myself. To begin with, we will go into the speech evaluations. The first speaker tonight who did a wonderful job was Ajita. Evaluating Ajita is going to be Brendan Francis. Because today's meeting theme is creativity and innovation, I asked Brendan what makes him creative and innovative. Brendan answered that he likes problem solving, thinking outside the box. He is almost a polymath. He likes woodworking, drawing with charcoal, dabbling with music. A little level below the polymath because he thinks he's a jack of all innovations, but master of none. But Brendan definitely is a master of giving feedback. So let's hear from Brendan on Ajita's speech. Over to you.
Thank you, Pritam. And Ajita, you've made my job very difficult because that was truly an amazing speech. And I think I mustered up a couple items that can improve, but it really was a wonderful tribute to your Nani. And I love hearing you speak because I think where you ended with the speech is the thing I love about you as a storyteller. And you have this visual in your head, this memory of your grandmother. And I've heard it not just in this speech, but in multiple speeches from you, that you're so gifted at using words to put what you experienced or have in your head into our heart, mind experience. And that is visualizing through words is such a strong skill as a speaker. And anytime you can use those skills, I felt like throughout the speech, it wasn't there that much in the beginning, but it ramped up more and more until that end was just a beautiful visual. So my challenge to you is capitalize on that. If there's moments to get that visual, however you do it, lean into it because that's incredibly captivating. I have no idea what she looks like, but it impacted me, and I see like 8 people shaking their heads when I'm saying that. So you definitely had an impact through a few short sentences. The other bit of feedback was the embroidery. I know there's a lot of crafty people in the club, and I very much want us to be in person. But if we have to be online, take use of that. You know, do the background, cover your camera, and show us one of her embroideries that she had done, or another, maybe a meal that she had created and a picture was snapped. that was really engaging. But overall, I really enjoyed this. And for me, it brought back a lot of memories with my grandmother, her father was from Sweden, and Swedish food is really awful, but the desserts are pretty good. So I have some wonderful memories of going to her house for the holidays and getting so excited for cookies. And so the memories that sparked in me, I hope it did it for others. And generally, this is a wonderful tribute to what sounds like an amazing woman. Can't wait to hear more speeches and more of your experience. Back to you, Freedom.
Wonderful feedback, Brendan. You're lucky we don't have a Swedish person on this call. Next, we are going to listen the evaluation for Ming Shuo's speech. Ming Shuo's speech is going to be evaluated by Hassan. I asked Hassan to how he finds creativity and innovation. Hassan's answer was he often finds inspiration in reading, and that is what makes him creative. Let us welcome Hassan and hear his creative feedback for Ming Shuo's speech.
Thank you very much, Pritam. Hello, everyone, and hello, Ming Shuo. I should say good morning, Ming Shuo. Thank you for this speech that you shared about your experience as a protege with Xavier. I really like the way you used the storytelling. You started by telling us how you discovered Toastmaster. I still remember your the first time you attended Toastmaster meeting, and you stepped in to talk during the table topics. It was great. And you took us throughout your Toastmaster journey by talking how you got to know Xavier. I really like the fact that you show some vulnerability during your speech when talking about your fear. For instance, that you were worried about the anti-Asian hate. You talk also about the fact that sometimes you feel overwhelmed by your your workload. You don't know you don't have time to write your speech and so on. And you shared us how Xavier helped you to get ready for your speeches and for your role. So I really like the kind of words you have for Xavier, but especially what you learn from Xavier, like changing your volume or the facial expressions in your speech, and also in a personal way, on a personal perspective, also the fact that he also helped you get rid of your bad habits, and he shared with you some good habits that you are using in order to become a better person. And this is for me the essence of the mentoring in Toastmaster, which is drive personal growth. Your mentor helps you gain confidence in yourself, and you become a better speaker and a better leader. So you asked me to evaluate you about confidence, and I can tell you that compared to your previous speech, this time you really showed a lot of confidence in yourself. I can see that, and you can see that even in the gestures, because you had much more gesture than your previous speeches. For instance, I like when you're mimicking writing to Xavier, and he was also replying to you. And I also like the fact when you're talking about your second meeting, you use this hand gesture to talk about that. This was great. And something also I noticed about gestures, in many of your speeches, when you're talking, you tend to touch your eyeglasses. You didn't do that this time. This is great. Congratulations for that. And what you can improve for me is the vocal variety. For instance, when you're talking about Xavier, even impersonating Xavier, you could have tried to change your tone, I don't know, your accent in order to add more vocal variety. And another thing, you started your speech by saying hi everyone. You don't have to go to do that. You can go straight to your speech. You don't have to say, for instance, hi everyone, or at the end, thank you. You don't have to do that at Toastmaster. And something also I liked is your conclusion, where you showed us this painting of Xavier. This was great, and I love painting, so this is something I really liked in the conclusion. So overall, it was really a great speech. I really loved it. It was entertaining. You had a lot of humor. It was also, we can also see that it was coming from your heart. You are talking about your experience with Xavier and what you learned from him. Thank you for doing that.
What a detailed feedback of that speech by Hassan. Xavier is kind of a celebrity in Toastmasters. A few weeks ago, Hassan gave a toast about Xavier, and now Mingshu drew a painting for Xavier. So we will move from that speech to the next speech, which was by our technical expert in electricity, Gaurav. Evaluating Gaurav's speech would be Matt Mack. I also asked Matt how he becomes creative and innovative. Matt said that he goes to that state when situations are becoming strained and coming to the breaking point. That is when he jumps into an excited creative mode for solving the problem. That is the same thing that happens with me. So help me welcome Matt and hear from him about Gaurav's speech.
Gaurav, thank you so much for sharing with us this speech. You really bit off a tricky thing to do. You shared with us your technical research, your graduate level research, and that is really tricky to do with lay people, those that haven't studied and may know almost nothing about it. And so you undertook something that was difficult. And it's important when you do that to make the topic two things, approachable and relevant. And I think you started off doing that excellently with your title. The first thing you stated was your title. You're not safe in your own home. And it's funny. It's an instantly funny thing, and we're chuckling. And so you grab us with that. So we know whatever you're going to talk about relates to every single one of us, because we all want to be safe in our own homes. So what is this you're going to talk about within our own homes by which we're not safe? And that also made it approachable. Whenever you use humor, whatever you're talking about, it's easier to get close to, it's easier to get closer to you. So right from the get-go, I feel like you condensed this very technical thing into an approachable and relevant topic. I did feel that as you went along and it got pretty technical, I lost some of that approachability. I was downright confused, as I'm sure you thought we would be at some points. And that's tricky to know how to know your audience and the audience that you're speaking to and how to present this to them. I did get lost a little bit. I would say returning to your theme of being safe in your own home along the way would bring us back. At times I knew I was lost in the details, but I still wanted to know the overarching view of how does this tie into safety. You did get there when you said, I can't remember what it even was now, but about, criminals digging into the system of the meters and stuff and knowing who's home based on these graphs. So that was good. That took me right back to it, but I was lost a little bit before that. A little bit on the use of your slides, this was a presentation software use speech. And so a few tips there. When you're giving this kind of a speech, I always want to see your face. I don't want to lose your expressions and your body language all in the slides. So anytime we use slides, I would say keep your face in there. There's also a general rule with slides that they don't want to be too busy. You don't want to get lost or have people just trying to read your slides. Those of us that are really anxious about reading all the words we see, you're going to lose people that way. I'm sure these were your graduate level slides, so I don't know how you would change those, but think about that. And I thought your pacing was very good. Like your pace is very easy the whole time, which is excellent. My last compliment is I know you kind of did this last minute, and I'm thank you for doing a speech. A lot of us in this situation wouldn't have done one. We would have backed out. So the fact that you stuck it out and pulled this from the research into a speech, thank you for that example. With that, I'll turn it back over to our general evaluator, Preetham.
All right, we are done with the speech evaluations. Now we are going to get a report from the functionaries who were working on the background, listening to everything carefully. First, we'll go to our timer, Bhakti. Bhakti, can you give us a timing report on the meeting?
Sure. I am happy to announce that every one of the speaker tonight were on time. Ajita had her speech at 4 minutes and 7 seconds. Ming Shuo for prepared speech had 7 minutes and 19 seconds. Gaurav had 7 minutes and 2 seconds. All the table topic speakers were on time. For evaluation, Brendan was at 2 minutes and 38 seconds. Hassan was on dot time with 3 minutes and 30 seconds. And Mac was at 3 minutes and 25 seconds, which was also very close. But nevertheless, they completed it on time. So that's my timing report. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
All right, next we are going to move to our R counter, Ruchi, sitting right beside me.
Sure. Today it was an easy roll because everyone used their pauses very well, especially Ming Shuo. I definitely want to highlight your pauses. You could have easily filled it with ahs and ums, but you chose not to, which was very visible that you were making that choice of taking a pause before you went on to the speech. Gaurav had a few so you can say also a few words that were more of filler words and phrases than in the sentence itself. Other than that, we didn't have any. Great job. Back to you.
Okay, let's move on to our final functionary, the grammarian, being done by Sarah Francis. So Sarah, time for your report.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. A few things I wanted to point out tonight. First of all, so many of you use the word of the day, and it makes me happy, as you can see. Ajita used it in her speech. Gaurav used it in his speech. Ming Shuo, it's okay, you'll get there. The table topic speakers all used it, except Destin, you are correct, you did not use it. I also wanted to point out the fun ways that people played with language today. We talk a lot about the rhetorical devices. They're fantastic. Rule of three, Ajita used as well. However, playing with language is one of my hobbies. So I want to point out the places we did that. I'm going to count one that Ajita used. It is more common in British English, which I know is more common since, you know, colonialism and all that. As we in American English, we will use the phrase sweets very often. We do not often use the word savories, but I loved it. Googled it. It's British, but I want to bring it here because it's lovely. And I'm a fan of the savories. Ming Shuo, I'm going to say that this was a hyperbole. You may have meant it straight, but I've known Xavier for a long time. He is funny. He is not Jim Carrey. So I'm going to call that hyperbole. And I also wanted to point out, actually, separate from the playing with language, Ming Shuo, the simile that you used, like a candle, that comparing Xavier to a candle, that he's burning himself and illuminating you. Pretty spectacular image of him giving of himself to bring light to you. I did want to make one grammatical correction, Ming Shuo. You did a fantastic job. Your English has definitely vastly improved just since you joined the club. There was one place you said you wanted to embrace American cultural. It would be American culture. Although I think you should just bring more Chinese culture to us. Gaurav, you did a great job defining the technical terms in your speech. It is difficult for those of us who did not go to RIT to follow along with these technical speeches. However, you defined the words that I had never heard before, which helped. I might have been a little bit with Matt in some of it. I'm not really sure how much safer this new thing is, but I'm going to trust you on that because I have other skills. Xavier played with the word of the day. He used polymath and polyglot. which polyglot is someone who speaks many languages. Tonight I played around with the word of the day a whole heck of a lot, which made me happy. It was all ridiculous, useless words mostly, as far as if a technical grammarian would say polyscared is not a thing. But it was funny. And I especially liked poly one subject, because poly, the prefix, is what means many. So it's many one subject. If you wanted to play around with it to make it slightly more correct, you could say monomath instead of having a poly one subject. Dogs are pretty monomathematic in that they just want food. Whether that's chicken or you, that's pretty much their goal. Other than that, I had very little to say, but I was pleasantly pleased with the playful use of words tonight. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you for that detailed feedback, Sarah. Now we are going to get a general evaluation of the meeting. One thing I can tell you, I have been attending other Toastmasters clubs, being part of the district, overall high-level picture of Toastmasters. The news out there is Toastmasters is losing members. However, that is not true in this club. Tigertales has always been an exception, even in moments like this, where we are meeting online. Tigertales has seen its member grow and thrive. So it's an extraordinary club. All the negative things that are happening in the Toastmasters world does not apply to this club. So congratulations to all the members of this club on helping do that. We had a wonderful meeting today with 3 amazing speeches. Ajita, your speech was incredible. I'm sure your Nani was smiling at you from the astral world or wherever she is listening to your speech. Mingsho, there is no words to describe how far you have come since you joined Toastmasters. Your English is probably better than most native speakers now in terms of your expression and all that. Gaurav, you showed us that you are a very technical person. I think what you will need to do is embrace a little bit of storytelling that Toastmasters has to offer in your technical speeches to make your technical speeches also more engaging. You definitely have the skills to do that. You have shown that to us in previous speeches. I really liked today Bhakti's background. Your background was very clear. You did not disappear into when you were changing the background, green, white. You're not disappearing into it. Xavier's creativity was, again, celebrity of Toastmasters. He's always creative, bringing something new to the table all the time. One thing that I would like to ask the table topics section to have is, when we are running short on time, let's limit it to 3 questions so that we can finish the meeting on time. We are going a little over time in today's meeting. Also, one other thing is maybe explore the possibility of having multiple co-hosts in the meeting and refining what the role of Zoom Master looks like. Maybe the Zoom Master could have a role of renaming all the functionaries to see if everybody is named correctly. Apart from that, it was a wonderful meeting. Like I mentioned, while all other clubs are suffering outside of Tigertales is thriving. Let's keep that up and continue to do what we do. One special function who goes unnoticed sometimes is our Vice President of Education, Hassan. He does an excellent job of putting together the meetings on time every week, setting up the roles, making sure everybody fills in the roles. So thank you, Hassan, for doing that. Kanzi's, I will.
Thank you very much, for your time, for this wonderful evaluation. Now it is time for me to announce the winner of the table topics. Can you unmute yourself and make a drum roll, please? The winner of the table topics is Tanai.
Oh.
He got his Kit Kat. So thank you, everyone. I'll now return the lectern to our president, sorry. Back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. This is probably the first virtual meeting where the table topic winner actually got their prize. So congratulations, Tanay. I just have one announcement. Last week, Hassan must have briefed you on the project that Kelly and Christine have taken over, where they volunteer to join other clubs. So this month, Ruchi and Kelly are volunteering to go to other clubs, but the slot for June is open. So if anyone is interested to volunteer, please reach out to Kelly or Christine or myself, and I will send that word to Kelly as well. Other than that, thank you all for joining today's meeting. If you're interested in participating any roles for the next meeting, let Hassan know. And with that, I'll conclude tonight's meeting.